Everybody, this is Adrian. This is Birb speaking. I couldn't be more excited. I could not be more excited. This is a very special show like it's never been before. A very special roundtable discussion is going to be open in a moment. We are going to have a lot of legends in the room, a lot of huge names I have always had amazing, huge respect towards and for. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to discuss with the army of legends about sociopolitical, sociopolitical aspects, the financial aspects, regulatory aspects, and problems and challenges about the crypto adoption for the upcoming months and years. Perhaps with the bear market in the middle. Let's see. Let's see where it gets us. Where it gets us, because we would love to cover some valuable insights that many people may actually just have as food for thought as they develop and grow on their financial freedom, career, and path. And everybody, if you're ready to actually just join us on the stream, make sure you stay tuned. We are going there right in a moment. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody, my great friends. I'm so excited. I'm smiling all the way up. Layla Maidan of Business Insider, Coach JV, Scott Melker, Douglas Bonaparte, Mark Yusko. The lineup is so strong, I can barely hold my excitement. This is such an amazing opportunity to meet you all on today's roundtable discussion. Very first question. How are you feeling today?
Great.
Absolutely.
Really
great.
Amazing.
Good stuff.
Beautiful. That must be actually, what is it, noon of your time for most of you?
Yep.
You all seem very well rested. It's actually getting near towards the later evening time in Poland. It's 6 p.m. But by the time we finish the show, it's going to be 7. Many people actually, get the on this side of the planet, on European side of the planet, get the struggles over the market closing. The market closing is basically in my hometown is 1 a.m. So I always have to stay up until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. While you guys can actually enjoy very freely, with your coffee, with your dinner, all the good points on your end about the markets. I want to talk to you guys and cover, ladies and gentlemen, very broad topics. This is an open discussion, roundtable discussion. So let's not hold back our opinions. Let's kick off with questioning, with posing the very first question: is crypto needed at all from the social point of view, socio-political point of view? Is crypto needed? Let's start with Layla.
Well, thank you, Adrian. I would say in many respects it is, because a large part of the world still till this day remains unbanked, and the barrier to entry as well still remains high. And so cryptocurrencies has, I believe, in many ways opened the door for more people to get involved and also take control of their own finances without having so many barriers to get through. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Knowing your opinion already, I'd love to hear from Coach JV.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, coming from the banking world, I was 12 years in banking. Crypto is absolutely needed. The old archaic banking system was developed with the SWIFT system before the internet. And so as supply chain management moves at the speed of light, money needs to move at the speed of light. And not only is it needed for the public and the unbanked, but it's also needed for the banks. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is the banks are struggling right now. They're struggling. It's a modern day bank run. And so not only is it needed for the people, but it's needed for the banks to continue to operate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, why do you think it's like a modern day bank run right now? Why do you say so?
Well, I say with the general public not being fully engulfed in the cryptocurrency space yet, but once they can find out that they can be their own bank, they can stake their own cryptocurrencies for high yields versus getting 0.002% at their bank. It's like a modern day bank run, and that's where the biggest gap or stress is coming for banks is they don't want everybody running over to cryptocurrency. They don't want everybody moving over there knowing that they could become their own ecosystem in bank. And I think we've seen it through decentralized finance, or in fintech, is where people are using Zelle, these different peer-to-peer networks. And so banks, to me, becoming from the banking experience and going to CBA Executive Banking School, if I had this type of technology when we scaled our banks in the SIM model, we would have been number one bank. And so I think there's a big transitioning happening, and where like back in 1929, they're hear ye, they ran the banks. Well, it's the same thing happening right now. So I think there's a big distraction pushing people away from cryptocurrency so they can't see that they can become their own sovereign bank.
Mm-hmm. Okay. While we're talking again about sociopolitical, aspects of the adoption, especially for the next months, perhaps with the bear market, we are talking actually naturally about two fields, about the sociological aspects or the social aspects, and we are talking about the political aspects, right? So combining these two words is actually what leads and brings a lot of challenges. What kind of challenges perhaps does Mark Yusko, legendary Mark Yusko, happen to see?
Too kind. Look, I think there are so many challenges to overcome. One is just inertia, right? The banking system has had a good 800-year run since the Medici's kind of borrowed, shall we say, stole dual entry accounting from the monk. And look, I think that's first. Second is this constant barrage of propaganda that socializes people into thinking that they have to be reliant on these trusted third parties. As Layla said, right, we don't need, for the masses of humanity who don't have a banking system today, and as Coach said, that run on the bank is real, but that it comes from fear in part, right? It comes from greed in part, seeking higher yields. So the social emotional challenges that the people have to overcome are fear of leaving the safety of the banking system, right? Big brother, big sister have been taking care of us for so long, kind of taking care of us, really stealing our wealth through inflation. And I think also this fear of the unknown, right? Every innovation, right? Every custom begins with broken precedent, as Will Durant said. And when you challenge any status quo, there's an intrepidation and a fear. And most individuals really like the comfort of the herd. So they're really hesitant to go out and take risk. And I think that's why, if you look at where all the great wealth has been created, in fact, my pinned tweet on Twitter, right? It's by investing in something you believe in before others understand. Yes. And by taking that non-consensus action, you'll be mocked, you'll be ridiculed, you'll be stigmatized. That's hard. It takes real strength, real conviction, real courage to step outside your comfort zone. But again, hashtag life is better outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I'm just having a look, like you said, about your pinned tweet, which reads, and I quote, "The greatest wealth is created by being an early investor in #innovation. Making that investment requires believing in something before the majority of people understand that. You will be mocked, ridiculed, criticized for your non-consensus action. It is absolutely worth it." Is it worth it, Douglas Bonparth?
Yeah, I mean, listen, risk reward, right? If you're willing to take the risk of doing something bold, against the grain, unpopular, you stand to reap the biggest rewards out there. Obviously, the flip side is if you're wrong, maybe your reputation, your dollars, and I don't know, your respect go down the drain here a little bit. So we can have a whole conversation about making proportional bets and tie it to crypto and everything like that. But I want to take almost a more positive, I guess this is a positive take on it. You asked, do we need crypto? I don't think people are going to have a choice in the future here. And we can all talk about how many years out that is. And it's not just crypto, right? Now we're seeing it, constantly being rebranded or upgrading itself to Web3, right? And we're getting into an entire ecosystem that's not just a decentralized financial system that's latched fully onto a traditional financial system. And that's something I would like a lot of people who are, enthusiastic about crypto or Bitcoin to realize, like they go together, guys. You can't destroy one and let another live. You don't want to live in that world. Trust me, you don't want to live in that world as we're all climbing Garbage Mountain to get cell phone signal. It's not what we want to do. But this Web3 world that we're inevitably going to be living in, look, you can get ahead of it. You can educate yourself today. You can participate today. And participation is probably the best way to learn, right? Go build something in the sandbox here. If you can't do that, learn as much as you can about the sandbox so it doesn't hit you like a train when inevitably, this is the world that we live in. So from that's my positive view on it, and it's going to offer all of these solution sets and things we haven't even yet thought of because we haven't been playing in that sandbox for so long. So yes, it's not only necessary, I think it's inevitable, and everyone shook their head up and down there. So I know I got it right. Nailed it.
Doug, you're such a positive guy. You're such a positive person that it would be hard for me to believe you would have any negative views on that. That is pretty wild, and I love your conviction and the way you convey your messages in the memes. Let's talk about it later in a moment. In the meantime, I want to actually ask same question. Like I wanted to say to Scott Melker, but he's actually logged in as Birb's #1 fan. So let's ask him this way. Scott, do you feel the crypto is needed? Does it come needed like in real life for you?
It depends on who you ask, of course. If you ask Ken Griffin, Elizabeth Warren, or Gary Gensler, they'd probably say no. Right? We don't need it. We have our old systems. They work, and get out of my way. Right? So obviously, crypto is wildly disruptive. And so there's a lot of people who would not want to see it succeed. But that's the very reason that your average person and most systems need to be upgraded with crypto. And that can mean so many things, sort of as Doug talked about. It's almost a misnomer to now refer to it as crypto, right? Because it's so much more than it was in like 2012 or 13 or even 17, even 2020. Right? Because now, we had DeFi summer last year and NFT summer, and now it's gaming, and all of these things are so beyond the very idea of a few tokens that a bunch of nerds like us are trading, 24/7. So I do think that it's absolutely needed. And I think that can be even at the most simple level now. We talk about banking the unbanked, as Layla talked about. That could be at the simple level of just having a wallet that holds stable coins and having access to the dollar in a country where you can't get dollars. Right? Nobody in crypto wants to hear that, but the dollar is a global reserve currency, and there's a lot of places in the world that people just want dollars and can't get them. And so crypto even solves that, right? So I think once you go down the rabbit hole of all the possibilities, it's truly endless and definitely needed. Just depends on who you ask and for what purpose.
Yeah, Birb, let me just add one little thing to what Scott was saying and what Doug was saying. Look, it's absolutely needed, and it's been needed since 1975. So there's a reason that Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday is 4/5/75. There's a reason. 4/5 was the day that gold was banned in 1933. 1975 was the day it was unbanned, and we decoupled from the fiat system. I mean, decoupled from the gold-backed system and went to a fiat system. And since 1975, fiat currencies all around the world have been declining in value. And we see that in prices of everyday goods and services. And that is not that things are getting better. The stock market is not getting better. The real estate markets are not getting better. Houses actually wear out. They don't appreciate. The currency is getting wiped out.
Right.
And so there's an X, and I call it the X factor. So currencies, fiat currencies are going down, and cryptocurrencies are going up. And Gresham's law says good money will always crowd out bad. And that is exactly what's happening. Real money, sound money, cryptocurrency is crowding out the shit. And the shit coins are not the altcoins. The shit coins are the currencies, the dollar, the yen, the euro. That's the real problem.
That's the way to put it. That's the way to put it. Go, JV.
I'll jump in there too. Like the delicate balance, because a lot of people, when I was sharing cryptocurrency after I got out of the banking system, everybody's, cryptocurrency is a fraud. But you got to think about this. The banks are already involved in cryptocurrency. JPM Coin, you got Bank of America has the most cryptocurrency patents. Wells Fargo invested $5 million into cryptocurrency firm. Warren Buffett, though he's not in cryptocurrency, started to lower his bank stocks, increase his position by 10% in Bank of America, went into new banks. So they're all moving, and you have to look at the players in the game as well. You had Brian Brooks, who left the head legal counsel of Coinbase, to head up the OCC, Operation of Currency Control, during his short tenure, allows federally chartered and thrifts to custody cryptocurrency, heads off. He heads off in his little journey. Jay Clayton leaves, heads to go on a cryptocurrency. Bill Hinman leaves the SEC, goes and consults for a cryptocurrency firm. So the players in the game are moving and strategically position themselves. I think where the FUD comes from is they want to make sure that they can regulate this properly so they don't lose control of the system. That's just my opinion coming from a banking perspective. When I was in CBA Executive Banking School, as a former banker, we were already moving to fintech back then. We were looking to move tellers out of their positions into financial technology. Back then, I didn't believe in cryptocurrency. I was a full-fledged banker. And then when I realized the actual thing that's happening outside of the banking system, it's just this delicate balance that they're walking. So is Gary Gensler for crypto? I think he is. I think what they're positioning is how are they going to regulate it so they don't lose control of the system. And it's this delicate balance that they're walking. I mean, if you're looking now, Burger King, you spend $5 or more, you get rewarded in cryptocurrency. So what that tells me is that they're predictive programming now the public slowly and methodically to get on your wallets. And then eventually when they're ready to switch over, it'll be the thing to go to. So I think that's just something to think about. Is a lot of people who are thinking cryptocurrency is not here to stay, or it's going to go to zero, or it's going to disappear. Yeah, you're going to go through the same bear market, bull market, but it's here to stay. It is here to stay, and the banks are voting with what they're investing in.
I love how you said to properly regulate it so that they can control the system. I think you can eliminate the properly regulated and just leave control the system. Yeah. Right. I think they have zero intention or care about properly regulating it. If they wanted to properly regulate it, we wouldn't be trading a Bitcoin futures ETF. We'd be trading a Bitcoin spot ETF. Obviously. So I don't think that they're actually after proper regulation. I think they just want absolute control.
I'll in regarding the regulation part of it, because it was one of the bigger topics recently, especially from Chris Giancarlo, who's the former chairman of the CFTC. And he was basically sounding the alarm on the regulation side of it, saying that, crypto enthusiasts, they need to be paying attention to what's going on, because even myself as a reporter, I'll write an article about, here are the altcoins that you should be looking at and trading, and it will get massive attention from readers. But then I'll write an article about regulation and the engagement is super low and the readership just isn't quite there. And I think what people need to understand is that, you might be having fun trading these altcoins and, maybe trying to get rich scheme. But if you're not paying attention to the regulatory side, you're going to wake up one day and you're not going to like what's going to happen, because there's a second thing that we also need to understand outside of the regulatory framework that might not fit with the technology, is that money, and Giancarlo said this as well, is that it's tied to social values. So are we moving towards digital currencies? Yes, we are. What kind of digital currencies, though? Well, if you ask China, it's going to be a centralized yuan where you lose your privacy, and it's controlled and potentially tied to the social credit score system, where you lose autonomy over your money. But or you can take crypto and turn it into a decentralized enterprise that allows companies to flourish. And what we're going to end up with is going to be based on, what we push for. And so not paying attention to these topics, even though it might not be as interesting, it's extremely important. And I will say to anybody out there, read and learn about the policies that are being passed right now and how they're going to impact digital currencies. Because once regulation is passed, it's really hard to bring that back, right? So,
well, I want to say Leila is so right in adamantly differentiating between digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, and I don't want to lose the crypto moniker, because crypto is so important, cryptographically secure and decentralized. Central bank digital currencies are not cryptocurrencies. Full stop. They will never be cryptocurrencies. They will never be decentralized. They will be centralized. They will be controlled. And the dystopian, unbelievably heinous view is what Leila described, is where they are tied to social scores. How about this? You work all week, you get your pay, and the central banker says, you jaywalked this week, so you get 80% of the value. Oh, and you know what? If you don't spend that money in these 4 places by Friday, it vanishes. That's programmable money. That's central bank digital currencies. That is dystopia. A cryptographic future where it's decentralized and we can opt out of that fiat system is critical, absolutely critical.
I love it.
I don't know if I can fully go down and look, for a number of reasons here when we think of regulatory bodies. Number one, I don't want them on my bad side, so I'll be easy on that. Might make doing business a little bit more difficult. So that's a selfish reason, but I don't know if I can fully go down this whole of look, it's all about control. Now, I do believe, you'd be naive to think that there aren't a good deal of elements that are, but I wanted just to interject with, when you're getting this out or anything out to the masses, people do need to be protected, right? People do need protection against ultimately themselves here. And I think that perhaps there needs to be a little bit of a better balance here. And the other point I would make is, ironically, the organizations or institutions that probably provide the most on-ramp or the biggest on-ramp to this space are probably the banks. I'm not saying that's who you want doing that, but they have the most customers. They have the biggest reach as far as wallet share goes. So I'm not making any predictions here. I'm just saying it's going to be very interesting. So I think it was Mark, you pointed out the fine balance, or maybe it was Coach, the fine balance between, centralized and decentralized here. For me, it's amazing to watch and see happen, as it is for all of us here. I just wanted to weigh in on that. People do need protected, and it will be interesting to see how banks and financial institutions adapt and therefore bring in a lot of people, because that's ultimately what I think we need right now. Is I'm noticing a lot of people still have no idea about anything that's going on here, and you can't have that and widespread adoption at the same time.
Yeah, I'll jump in there with the banking part of it. You got to think of what banks are going through too. You got the Basel III laws that changed in July, right? So you got to have gold on reserve to have riskier assets. You have the LIBOR switching to SIFOR at the end of, or in December, right? We don't know what that's going to do to the interest or how that's going to mess with the banks, right? People aren't walking into banks anymore. People are not going into banks anymore. So what did our tellers do before? They sold credit cards. They sold credit. They're shoving it down your throat. They don't have access to that anymore. So their margins are being squeezed and being squeezed and being squeezed. So I believe personally, from an old banker perspective, that the only option they have is to get involved with this distributed ledger technology. The fee structure is so low for the banks that they're going to feed the crap out of us. The margin is going to come from the fees, right? To get the money to move through the system quickly. The banks are just going to be customer service banks. They're going to have your central bank digital currency. They're going to have your crypto wallet, right? And people will trust that. They will trust the banks. They'll trust the big institutions, and they will go there because, like, when we're deep in crypto, right? This is our lives, and we have, I'm my own bank basically now. And so, but the majority of people are still going to want that bank. They're going to want to walk into a Wells Fargo or a Chase, or be able to call somebody, I sent my crypto or to a different person. Can you help me out with that? And so it's this weird dynamic balance we have. Now I gotta stop saying balance. It's very pushed one way, where the people programmed for so long to operate in the system. And I think somebody said in the beginning, it's hard. It's like moving a freight tanker trying to move their subconscious mind to a whole different paradigm. And we just exist in it, right? We had beepers and we had cell phones. We never thought that we'd be communicating like this, and here we are, right? And people resist it, but they still live in it,
I love the fact.
Really quick to that point about people resisting it. We also have to remember that there's a natural transition in a generational shift. So when I started originally reporting, my go-to was certified financial planners, and it was always the same stuff. It was never a different story. You have these high yield savings account that I don't even know why we tag the word high onto them, because they are far from high. And but that was the responsible thing to do, And so when I started going towards crypto, I had CFPs reach out to me and send me messages, be like, don't you think it's kind of irresponsible to be, pushing this? And at first I thought about it and I reflected on it, and I was like, I can't tell a young person that is making six figures from crypto and they're successful doing it to take that and go put it in a high yield savings account. Even if I tell them, they're just not going to do it, So there's this natural generational shift that we kind of also have to keep in mind, which you mentioned it as well, in that I don't know if the future is going to be heavy on asset managers managing people's money, as opposed to now when you can just do it on your phone. And so while people that maybe got used to the older system might have a hard time, I think the new generation is only going to know that, and everyone else is just going to have to catch up.
Right.
I love the fact how you actually just brought this, financial planner's perspective and talking about the high yielding accounts, saving accounts. The only question you have to ask is truly if it is for sure the yielding accounts that are high, right? If, if it's not actually the other party,
I mean,
because with the soaring inflation that we are seeing right now, and this has been, of course, like world breaking records everywhere, all over the planet. 6.8% officially in Poland, 6.2 as far as I'm concerned, and for the states.
Yep.
This we are talking about not healthy environment anymore. The governments, the central
Right.
banks would refer to it, or the economists would refer to it, that the healthy inflation rates are 2.2, 2.25. We are triple that. We are already triple that. We are really at the edge, at a potential edge of something that may eventually turn into a sort of like a collapse, a financial collapse. This may be the start, the beginning of the ending phase. And speaking of that, we also have to be very aware of the challenges that we may have, not only from the socio-political, like sociological and the political point of view, but also from the financial point of view, because within the next months, perhaps 2022 scope, we might be talking about the horizon of the bear market coming, right? I'm not saying it's coming, right now, next months, next weeks, but it will come eventually, inevitably, because that's how the markets usually work, at least. Unless it's stocks, then stocks always go up, right? But but basically here we are talking about the problems. And the way I read it, like if the community, like broadly spoken, community, which is the stakeholders, the people, the banks, the regulators, if they really have enough time to complete the compliance well, to complete the regulatory aspects before the bear market starts. And I would love to ask the question to Scott. Do you think that can happen?
No. And first of all, bear market for anyone with a long time horizon is an opportunity, and certainly not something that people should be worried about in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it was Mark who told me that the best performing accounts in history at Fidelity were the people who were deceased, right? The people who had died and couldn't control their accounts, so they didn't get in their own way of doing things like dollar cost averaging into a bear market, right? So I don't think the bear market is a concern. But if we're talking about regulators being ahead of the bear market, I mean, we just saw, as I touched on before, Bitcoin futures ETF. That's all we're going to get for a little while, I think. I think that it's a slow moving machine. It's like molasses, and the regulators cannot keep up with the speed of crypto innovation and what's happening in this market.
Yeah, I'm going to take a slightly different edge. I don't think that decision was lack of speed, Scott. I think it was intentional obfuscation and a sinister side. Look, if you go back to the gold ETF, okay, the gold ETF, GLD, was held up for 3 years. Why was it held up for 3 years? Well, it took 3 years for JP Morgan to get enough shorts in gold. We just saw the big settlement. They made $20 billion manipulating the price of precious metals. They paid a $60 million fine. What a freaking great deal.
We lost
what an
for a second.
unbelievable deal. Okay. So they allowed the regulators to approve the GLD, who would take the long side of JP Morgan shorts, only when JP Morgan was ready. The reason that a spot ETF has not been approved is because that would actually increase demand for Bitcoin. A Bitcoin futures ETF does nothing in any way, shape, or form in helping the market. What it does, it allows JP Morgan and other large banks to short the shit out of Bitcoin, which is why it went from 68,000 to 56,000. Yep. So this is sinister and intentional. Yeah. This is not accidental. This is not ineptitude, my view.
No, I agree with that 100%. My point was being that they got what they wanted now, and I don't think that we're going to see much more on that front. Like my point being, we're not getting a spot ETF anytime in the next 3 years, in my opinion, right? And so the spot ETF was our narrative, the thing that we were so excited about. By the time we get approval of a spot ETF, crypto will be so far beyond the need of a spot ETF that it will be utterly irrelevant, in my opinion.
Perfect.
Right, and that was the point I made. If you're talking about the velocity of regulation versus the velocity of this market and the products that we'll see, and the way, frankly, that innovators in this space will find around those regulations and to continue to innovate, I think it's almost irrelevant. We got the futures ETF. That's what you get. The rest of it, good fun. Have fun trying to keep up with us.
Okay. Douglas, I want to hear your memes viewpoint on that. What do memes tell you about it?
I mean, from a practical standpoint, I'm pretty bummed we're not getting a spot ETF. It would have been a green light for me as an investment advisor to be able to allocate to client portfolios in a way that we do every other kind of allocation. It would have been a dream come true, quite frankly, for a lot of practical reasons that have to do with operating a business. Won't bore anyone here today on that. Would have been fantastic. My heart was like, oh man, Mark, take those words back. But to Scott's point, we always can create around this, right? We can create on-ramps. We can create new pieces of technology that integrate. We can go create our own wealth management firms that don't need any of this, kind of custodial platform that we're accustomed to. Great, got to make another change here. But you do what the market demands you to do so you can stay in business and make money, and also, most importantly, help your clients. So, it is what it is, and we'll see. There probably will be something. I hope it's not too late. But again, this is more selfish motivation. As far as what the memes tell me, I don't know. I always take, and this is kind of where I'm sitting when I hear things. I'm always, again, if you're going to be too extreme about your view, I want to make a joke about you and that. And if you're, whether it's bullishness or bearishness, my job in using humor is to kind of pull you a little bit closer to center than you think you want to go, just so we can hear a little bit more, objectivity out of you, because it's in those areas of discomfort of your own views that we find us moving forward faster, because we're getting more people to understand. And someone had a comment just a second ago that education and protection are, two very different things. And I actually love that point, but I think semantics there. Anyways, that's what the memes tell me, just kind of get people closer, you use them to flip things on their head so people can see the alternate view in a way that's not threatening, right? When you laugh, you're not threatened. So you can take the punch a little easier. You can deal with something that isn't your cup of tea a little bit easier because everyone's getting a chuckle.
Yeah, this has been some sort of like perhaps tiny bit of inside joke with Doug, because the truth is, not many people may know about that, but the moment I have a bad day, like whenever I have a bad day, I literally open up the Twitter account, and go to Douglas's page, and then I read those tweets, then I read those memes flowing like from this extremely professional person. And like my day is getting better just by looking at it. I promise. I swear. This is such insane, strong meme play. Like just out of the sake of it. Couldn't help.
Someone's got to do it. Yeah, clients haven't fired me yet. Thanks, man.
Hey, no, Birb, one thing on the memes. I don't know if you guys can actually see this or not.
Yeah. You see it.
It's so
the famous meme of at the original, the millionaire had the house in the Lambo, and the Bitcoiner was homeless. And then by 2020, the millionaire's just got a house, and the Bitcoiner's got a house. By 2030, the millionaire basically lives in a shack like people up in Canada these days, in Vancouver, and the Bitcoiner's got the Lambo and the mansion. By 2040, can you believe he has a whole Bitcoin? Got the city. So that's where we're headed, and I think the power of the meme is pretty incredible.
Well, I think it also takes into account inflation too, right? I know, Birb, you have a global audience, and we did spend some time talking about like U.S. regulation, but we probably have a heavy global audience here, and I think it's important that we also do address the issues of inflation. You talked about 6% inflation in some part of the world. Well, in Lebanon, we saw 144% inflation, and it happened. And I have firsthand experience with this because my aunt actually had her whole career in Lebanon as a teacher, and her pension fund came from there. And just with the snap of a finger, that now no longer is worth anything. And when that was about to happen too, the banks shut down, and they didn't allow people to take their money out more than $200 a month. So, there's a lot of issues, I think, with inflation, and people say it's transitory, hopefully, but at the same time, it's hard to say and it's hard to tell. And unfortunately for most people in Lebanon, cryptocurrency wasn't really a mainstream thing. Bitcoin wasn't a mainstream thing. And I think at this point now, it's a little too late to speak about the spilled milk, but there's a lot of places in the world that deal with, this issue. And so that's why, as much as we think that maybe a centralized system has security, it's also comes with risk depending on, where in the world you are.
But Layla, that's
Always
such an
risk-reward.
important point, that it's not inflation. That is a systematic devaluation. That is not inflation. And that is the ultimate play in the dictator playbook, right? The dictator takes control by giving away free money, free electricity, free whatever to get votes. They get voted into power. They siphon all the assets to themselves and their cronies, and they devalue the currency. The best performing stock market in the world in 2007 was Zimbabwe, right before they devalued the currency, right? Last 3 years, Venezuela, places like Lebanon. And it's not that the stocks are getting better, the real estate's getting better, it's that the currency is getting worse. Yeah. When people talk about inflation in the United States, it's not inflation. It is a systematic devaluation of the currency. Stocks are dead flat. U.S. stocks in the S&P is dead flat, denominated in gold since 1996. Dead
Isn't
flat.
it to devaluate the debts?
Because we did not denominate it in debt. In 40% of all the dollars created in the history of the republic in the last 18 months. That is a systematic devaluation of the currency. It's not inflation. And it's a very subtle point. Yeah. And you're right. The only protection is crypto.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you also bring up, Mark, because El Salvador as well, when El Salvador wanted to move to Bitcoin, there was a lot of, controversy over that. And you had, global organizations, the IMF, the World Bank sort of snub that and say, what are you guys doing? But there was a very important point that one of my sources, of the Central American Bank for Economic Integration, he said that, this was Jack Mahler actually said this point. I'm sorry. He said, a lot of we don't think about it, but El Salvador was on the US dollar. And then the US dollar went and printed a whole bunch of money in 2020, gave a whole bunch of stimulus, but El Salvadorians didn't get any of that stimulus. They only ended up holding the bag with the value of the dollar that was reduced by all that money printing. And so that was a very strong point that Jack Mahler made. And it made you really think, here in North America, I think a lot of the times we have this centralized view because we do have access to the dollar. We do use the dollar. But once again, the rest of the world, they take on the consequences in a different way.
Coach JV, would you like to comment on it as well?
Yeah, I think, one thing I want to jump into is, I know this is going to kind of take us off the subject of political or what's happening. We got to think too of the biggest shift in generational wealth, right? The biggest shift in generational wealth is the baby boomers. There's this massive flood of money coming down. And so we look at the oldest population that's shifting the wealth. And then you got to look at my 5-year-old son and what he's doing, right? So my 5-year-old son and 17-year-old daughter. So my son plays Roblox, walks into a theater and there's a Dogecoin on the back of the theater. On the back of the thing. He knows what Dogecoin is. He knows what Bitcoin is. In my daughter's high school, they're talking about, did you get into Ethereum? I'm like, are you not even 18? Like, how are you? Like, these kids are talking about.
You are 5.
You are 5. Yeah. It's like, so this is happening at a very young level, but there's also this massive shift of wealth coming down, right? And so the baby boomers are going to be selling their businesses, moving their assets into cryptocurrency. As the banks start to more legitimize it, like you said, the financial planners will be using that in their plans. And so I think it's something, a big thing that people need to look at too with the younger generation, how they communicate, how they operate, right? And so and I keep bringing it back up to the predictive programming and the McDonald's, the NFTs and the gaming part of it. It's like we're getting heavily involved in the metaverse and gaming in our academy here. We're getting involved in the nodes and the operation of the system. The gaming sector hasn't even fully caught on to moving over, and it is a $1 billion industry that is going to move into the cryptocurrency space, into this. So that's a big thing that people aren't paying attention to as well. is it going to, that doesn't really go too much into regulation because it's a gaming token, right? There's a gaming system that's operating. And so a lot of people just focus on the financial piece of it, the banking side of it, the regulation side of it, but there's a whole nother world happening. I just bought a Matchbox NFT. My son's into Matchboxes. I bought a Matchbox NFT. It was really cool. I got 4 rare ones and it already tripled in price. And I'm like, wow, I'm not into that type, but I'm learning because I'm learning through my son and daughter how they communicate and how they operate. So I think that's another important thing to look at as well. That's shifting is how we operate, how we communicate. The Metaverse, the announcement of Facebook going to Metaverse, whether he was trying to push the attention away from, he went for the currency and they kind of squashed the currency. He said, all right, forget it. I'm just going to take over the whole Metaverse. And that's such an interesting thing to look at as well.
Yeah, but
I love the fact that you brought this. Yeah, Mark, go on, please.
No, I was going to say, Birb, what Coach just said is so important. 37 trillion with a T. Remember, 1 trillion is $1 every second for 31,710 years. Big number. 37 trillion going from my generation, the boomers, to my kids' generation. Yeah. All right. And that is an amazing. Now you ask anyone, to Layla's point earlier, ask anyone under 35. I'm sorry, anyone over 35. Who's your broker? I don't know, UBS, Merrill Lynch, whatever. Mm-hmm. How much gold do you have? I don't know, 3-4%. How much Bitcoin do you have? Oh, are you kidding me? It's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. How much DeFi do you use? What's DeFi? Okay, ask anyone under 35. Who's your broker? What's a broker? You mean my Robinhood account? Yeah. Okay. How much gold do you have? Oh, are you kidding me? Boomer rocks. How much Bitcoin do you have? I don't want to talk about it. Why not?
I want to challenge that
percentage of my net worth. I don't want to admit it. How much DeFi do you use? Every day. So that digital divide, all of that money, as it gets liquidated out of businesses, out of real estate, out of stocks and bonds, it ain't going back. It's going into crypto, full stop.
But Mark, also, I think I really want to jump in quick here because there's something that a lot of the older generations forget, and that is it's too expensive now for millennials and Gen Zs to come in and be able to actually see real gains when they go to real estate. It's too expensive. Stocks, they're great. They will always go up, but not at the rate that crypto is going up. And so you have to remember there's also a generation that's coming into the workforce after the 2008 financial crisis, and then now again, the COVID pandemic that is coming into an economy that wasn't as rapidly growing as it was maybe in the 90s or the early 2000s, kind of before my time. So it's a lot tougher. The millennial generation especially has suffered economically. They're not, I believe statistics show that they don't make as much as their predecessors. So I think we fail to maybe sometimes look at that as well, as that there's no reason why they would go to the banking system and all the older systems. Go, Douglas. I think I interrupted you a couple of times.
No, it's okay. Look, I'm a financial advisor specifically for millennials. I've made my career on servicing the needs of my clients who are 28 to 42-year-olds. So I mean, I'm 37, geriatric millennial, smack in the middle. You're like 35. I'm like, I could go either way on this, and I got clients square in there, and it's not to refute Mark's point at all, because he's right. And Coach, what you said was amazing, and the virality of it is through our children, right? Yeah. The fact that my also almost 6-year-old daughter watched me stare at cryptodes for 3 days, and my wife pick out beautiful NFT artwork that was woman empowerment and had her own mission behind why she was choosing, this. She's seeing it. She's seeing it, and they go talk to it, and then kids in their school hear the words. That's the virality of it. But the notion, I just wanted to maybe pump the brakes on 20 to 30-something-year-olds not knowing what brokers are. They do. They have to deal with E-Trade. They have to get their options and their RSUs. Trust me, the amount of education that I have to put into getting them to understand traditional financial systems. It's not it's and the decentralized financial systems that they're coming to me 4 years ago. 1 in 10, and again, these are now young, these are 20-something-year-olds, early 30-something-year-olds. 4 years ago, I would have 1 in every 10 prospects or clients ask about or looking for exposure to digital assets, cryptocurrencies. 4 years. We know the financial space does not move fast. These ships take a long time to right and turn. In 4 years, I want to say, and this is all on my feel in real world experience, 50% 50% prospects, clients, or otherwise are coming to be educated, wanting to know. That is, in 18 years of doing this, specifically for young people, I've never, ever, ever seen something move that fast. So I'm not sure it's or. I think it's and. And again, decentralized systems having to literally work with the traditional. It's both. It really is. And I do know what the brokers are, but it will push more towards. And I think that's the more important part. It's going to be pushing faster towards decentralized systems. So got to get them on both, or it doesn't work.
I love the approach. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, very quick. I need to interrupt for a minute. We have about 15 minutes to wrap up the show, and I'm very glad Coach JV actually brought the question of Metaverse, because that is going to be the next question I'm going to ask Scott Melker in a second. But before I do, I want to remind to everybody that we are here for the show, especially if you've just joined, for our 14-day free trading congress to celebrate my 500,000 people on followers on Twitter, celebrating that by sharing the knowledge with everybody, with such amazing guests like Laila Maiden, Coach JV, Mark Husko, Douglas Bonaparte, and Birb's number one fan, which is basically Scott Melker, my great friend. And I want to remind to everybody that there is a special giveaway going on. If you're watching that on YouTube, if you are not, then head over to our YouTube. We are giving away 1 month of our premium membership to the Birb Nest. Basically, free money is being given away, or even on top of that, free knowledge is being given away. And all you have to do is just go ahead and put in the secret code that is displayed right now in the screen, which is basically Chain 2022. Chain 2022. This is the secret code. If you guys want to stand your chance, try your luck for winning premium membership, insane amount of knowledge, completely free of any charge, go ahead and rush to the video description of this YouTube link that you might be watching this the show under, and there's going to be a giveaway link in the video description. All you have to do is put in the secret code Chain 2022, and just like I said, ladies and gentlemen, to actually just get us closer to wrap the show up in about the 15 minutes, let's give a final round of our open roundtable discussion to discuss something that has been extremely hot, trending, and perhaps useful. I'm talking about Metaverse. And I'm talking about Metaverse in terms of the challenges. And this is a huge thing. We are talking about not only crypto, we are talking about Nikes, we are talking about McDonald's, we are talking about some huge brands getting really already patented in the field. Somewhere I've recently read that Nike is actually, as the company, they filed the patent for their digital shoes, basically for Metaverse, for what is coming. So we are talking about something really, really big. So my question to kick off to Scott Melker about the Metaverse, is the world ready for Metaverse in 2022, Scott?
I don't think the technology is ready for the Metaverse yet, so we got to get there. I mean, we love to talk about living in like this dystopian WALL-E future where we're all fat with our sodas floating around looking at our screens by next year. But listen, I mean, I don't think we have a single blockchain that can probably handle that to scale yet. Doesn't mean that we won't get there, but I do believe that we're not ready for that yet. That said, I think we're going to have a lot of options for the Metaverse, and I don't think that it's this Ready Player One singular, separate online future that people sort of talk about. I think we'll have a lot of different games, a lot of different Metaverse experiences, and each one will sort of have its own niche. And I do think that we are ready for that. I mean, personally, if I'm going to pick the Zuckerverse or a decentralized Metaverse, I think you know which one I'm going to live in. The last thing I need is my crazy uncle screaming at me about politics from their avatars instead of on actual Facebook, right? So that's a future I'm trying to ignore. For me, I think that what we're going to actually see is the greater use cases for this quote unquote Metaverse. I think we're going to start to have things coming into our actual world as opposed to going into this fake world. You'll drive past something, you'll have your VR helmet on that you'll be able to drive with, and it'll give you information on that sign. It'll tell you the price of a good on a sign, things like that. Nobody really talks about that, but my belief is that that's really what the Metaverse is going to be for mass adoption. It's going to be these sort of additional functionalities in our regular life and in the real world, more than just opting out and going to live in a cartoon.
I love it. Marcus, would you like to comment to that, perhaps?
Yeah, look, I actually don't think of the Metaverse as a place. I think of the Metaverse as a time. It's where our virtual world and our physical world finally really intertwine.
Yeah.
And I think this idea that there will be immersive experiences where you escape and go and have a Ready Player One experience and put on the haptic suit. Awesome. It's still a ways off. But that's not the metaverse. That's a portion of the metaverse. To me, the metaverse is that integration of all the things that have been happening, right? The fact that we're even having this conversation, talking about digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, and the idea that there's virtualization and AR. And look, we're still years away from autonomous vehicles, but imagine a future where you're riding in your autonomous vehicle and it pulls in the charging station. It doesn't take 2 hours, it takes 2 minutes. You won't get out of the car and put a plastic card in the machine. Are you kidding me? The car will pay the machine. That's the metaverse. Then it'll pull away, you'll get into traffic, and you won't want to sit in traffic. You want to go in the fast lane. It won't take a picture of your license plate and send you a bill for $4.17 and you write a check. No, the car will pay the lane. Yeah. And the cool part is I'll be on Waze Gold and it'll send y'all on the flowway and I'll get to go the fast route. Just kidding. The metaverse is everything as we migrate to digital, right? NFTs are not JPEGs. That is one form of an NFT, a non-fungible token. But NFTs should change the name to digital property rights. Yeah. Everything in the world, every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every collectible car, every case of fine wine, every real estate, every private business, everything will be a digital token, a digital property right. And they will trade 24/7, fractional ownership. All of it will be metaversed. So my new hashtag is Get Metaverse, right? Everything is the metaverse. And it's that time, that singularity in time when we don't distinguish between the real world and the virtual world. The assets that we keep in our virtual machines that may eventually be embedded, not in my body, but okay. So anyway, that's a long answer, but I get so excited about this. And the idea that the metaverse is some centralized organization is comical. It's absolutely comical. You can't change your name to Meta and suddenly be cool. Wrong.
Right. Yeah,
well,
I believe it.
Mark has a really, really important point about that. And it was also something that the CEO of Grayscale brought up, Michael, in the sense that which metaverse are people going to flock to? You know, you and I, we are, we understand crypto. We're heavy in the crypto space. There's a lot of the population, a lot of the world that still uses Facebook. Facebook is still widely used. And so the question is, where we're sitting, the answer might be obvious, that the metaverse is going to be on a blockchain and it's going to be decentralized. But there's also, I think we're going to see swift competition and a push from corporations and companies like Facebook, like Google, Microsoft, that are going to come headstrong and try to compete for that metaverse. And which of these platforms is going to lead and how they're going to work together or not work together, I think is also something that is going to be very interesting and that we should not discredit altogether and be paying attention to how this is going to play out.
Ray was 100% right, but I'll make a prediction. Google the clip of Bill Gates talking to David Letterman about the internet and saying, no, you should go to the Microsoft intranet because we'll protect you from the bad guys on the internet. That's what these corporate metaverses are going to suffer, the same fate. We will eventually do everything in decentralized, right? There will eventually be a decentralized Facebook. There will eventually, like Epic Games, right down the street here in North Carolina, makes billions of dollars a year because people play Fortnite, the free game. Nothing's free if it's free. But instead, now Axie Infinity, which is a owned game by the universe of players, now grossed more than Fortnite. Axie Infinity made $184 million in the last 30 days. Not for Axie Infinity, but for the members of the community. And as we move into DAOs, we haven't even talked about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. They'll replace every form of ownership. And Ken Griffin won't be able to buy everything.
Yeah, and I think
I love
I'll
how
jump on.
visionary you are, Mark. I love how
Yeah.
visionary you are, Mark, about that. Coach JV, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no! So Scott, I agree with Scott, and I think it's just a slow integration. Like think about it. You know, we used to go to fast food restaurants, right? Now we can get our fast food delivered to our house. We don't need to have to go out of our house to get our fast food, and eventually people are just going to go to their experience within their metaverse, right? They're going to go to the casino and gamble within the metaverse. You got the gambling apes where you can buy equity in a casino. It's wild what's going on right now, and it's just slowly and methodically changing. And we went from fax to email, you know, and then we went from when you walk into a bank, you'd go into your specific bank and your accounting was there and they pulled it out and then they started calling other banks. And so it's just a slow, methodical process. But I do believe, though, that with the pandemic, it has accelerated 10 years of history into 1 year. Went from, we lost our business. We had an in-person academy, 188 people. We got shut down. And what that did is it actually exploded our business because we hit the cameras, went online, and now we have 3,500 warriors worldwide. And so it's a beautiful thing to see if you can evolve into it, right? Because there's a thing where we were talking about the nefarious part of it, right? I always tell people, if I give you a gun, if you go hunt for food for your family, that's a great use of a gun. If I give it to somebody else, they murder somebody. It's the tool, right? It's not the tool, it's the user of that tool. We've used this tool, this pseudo metaverse that we're using right now, to expand to 3,500 people worldwide and helping people all over the world open up their mind and awareness. We do meditation, breathing, exercise, cryptocurrency. And so it's a very beautiful thing. And I think it's going to be a really amazing thing. Like people are connecting companies. And I think one thing too, I do want to bring up around the economic part of it. I do believe Jerome Powell has said it specifically. He said we're coming back to a new economy leveraged towards technology. He is worried about the middle class. I do believe this is a play to wipe out the middle class, to separate the rich and poor. I do believe that. And I think people do need to prepare their families to get ready for that. This is the greatest time in human history to really get your family set up for a great future. So I just wanted to put that out there. Start really thinking about that. It could be the worst time in your human history in your family timeline or the best time in human history. And so it's about, this stuff may sound confusing to people, the metaverse, but just step into it, get a good community, learn, and just grow. You don't have to know, like Warren Buffett doesn't know all about this phone, but he's one of the top investors in Apple, right? So,
So should I? The conclusion is, should I get me and my family digital Nikes?
Yes.
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 I mean, guys, you kind of rained on my parade here. I'm running out of places to hide from my children and wife, on the weekends. And I was kind of looking to the metaverse as the place to be. But now I'm under the impression that I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon. So thanks, guys. Really, really helpful here. But all of that was beyond insightful, even for what I know about it. But it's Web 2 to Web 3, right? If you think, looking at Web 2 Web 1 to Web 2. It doesn't take too many sci-fi films and too many great books to realize that the way we're using the internet ain't it. Like, it's really not, and the potential and capabilities that it has, and even beyond. I mean, yes, Neuralink me. I'll be first up. I'm the first in line for that. But be that as it may, it's a long road to get there, despite how fast things are going, and the way you guys have framed the kind of on-chain, off-chain mesh of experiences that are coming your way is what we need to focus on. And that's getting more on-ramps, that's getting more education so that people, Scott, you said it best, people don't suffer a fate that puts them behind. And, I try to make fun of the extreme ends. I'll try and bring it to, I won't make fun of it, I'll bring it to the middle here. Simply getting people accustomed to operating is almost my mission, as an advisor, is the education component. But I think if people are out there trying to build in this space, in the sandbox here, it's build the castles that get people in, that don't push them away. That's the thing that I think I stand for the most, is anytime I see rhetoric or groups or communities not be inviting, not say, hey, how do we get you in here to appreciate, as opposed to shame on you for not knowing it in the first place. Let this be my final words here. If you're out there making people feel bad that they don't understand, every religion in the world has managed to figure out how to get people in the doors of whatever religious structure it is they're trying to get them into. Sometimes I feel like the space we're in is the only, religion, take it for what you will, that sometimes pushes people away at the very front. And to me, that's the absolute worst marketing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Please, as a community, let's all get together and knock that shit off.
Yes.
Knock it off.
Yes.
Please stop with that. I beg of you. I'm your most pro FA out there for this stuff. Stop it. Stop
inclusion.
It now.
All about inclusion.
Yeah, or you guys are gonna screw the pooch on this, and nobody wants to see that. And this is all for naught. Stop it.
So you're saying yes to Neuralink. You're saying yes to Metaverse. Basically, imagine all the memes playing live in front of your eyes. Just
I can literally hijack.
I want
memes
that.
into your
I'm
brain.
in for
yeah,
it.
let's
I'm
get
in for
there.
it. Let's get that wrapped. Leila Maidan, would you like to wrap perhaps the final comments on the thread of Metaverse? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we spoke to it really well, and how it's going to turn out is really going to depend on us and the users and what we decide to do with it. Disclaimer, I decided to buy a piece of property in one of the metaverses. Now, the funny thing about it is I don't know if I bought it on a blockchain or a decentralized platform, or whether it was, I know it's Earth 2, so I saw it and I was like, let me try this, So I've started dabbling in it myself so that I can understand what it's like. But am I going to say that the metaverse that, I took a bet on is going to be the big one? I have no clue.
That is an interesting way to wrap it. Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe, again, on top of what our beautiful guests have just shared, the metaverse is a beautiful thing that we are about to witness as the whole humankind. This is a generational change which may actually impact the way we live, the way we interact, the way we communicate with each other on so many different layers and bases. And this is definitely going to come not without the challenges. But what the world is going to look like in the 2022, we are going to actually find out in about month and a half from now. And that being said, I just want to say a huge thank you and kind words of appreciation to our beautiful guests, to Leila Maidan of Business Insider, to Coach GV, to Scott Melker, my great friend and great fan, as the caption reads still. Douglas Bonaparte, my amazing friend as well, Mark Husko of Morgan Creek Capital Management. Ladies and gentlemen, the lineup couldn't be better for the show. I think we've discussed a lot of very important and vivid and living topics that you're going to actually witness and live with as I accompany you throughout the next months and years. And that being said, final reminder, guys, there is the giveaway we have before we wrap the show.
Everybody have a good holiday. Got to run to the airport.
Amazing. That was a good way to say bye. We have a special. He might have forgotten, but good. I hope he manages for the flight. Final giveaway, link in the video description on our YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take it any longer than Chain 2022. Smash the likes, hit the subscribe button. Follow all of our beautiful guests on Twitter. You're going to find them on Twitter under the same names. Scott Melker, Leila Maidan, Coach, JV, and Douglas Bonaparte have been mine and your guests for today's 14-Day Free Trading Congress broadcast. Thank you so much for your generosity of knowledge and wealth of the time that you shared with us. Thank you so much for coming over.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.